Hey everyone, Daniel and Chris here with the Superhero Show. Now, obviously, the big thing that happened this week was we got our proper Ant-Man trailer. We've already had a teaser, but as we said at the time, that had a lot of FX that were kind of test FX, so it wasn't really representative of the final movie. So I think this has given us a bit more of a substantial taste of what we're going to get later in the year. And we had a bit of feedback overnight after the trailer came out, and this is from Peter, who is from Uganda, and he says he watches the Duper Show every week and it resonates with geeks all the way from Uganda in East Africa. So, touching hearts and minds.
That's amazing.
He's written in and he talks about Daredevil, which obviously came out. We're not going to go into spoilers for Daredevil just for the people who haven't seen it just yet. But he talks about basically the format of the adaptation suiting particular heroes. So he says that he thinks the kind of long-running series of 13 episodes, 50 minutes each, really suit Daredevil, really good way to tell Matt Murdock's story. But he says, I can't help but feel this way about Ant-Man, which just released a new trailer that was pretty good, but ultimately still feels to me like a story too personal for a blockbuster. What are your thoughts? So we're going to talk about Ant-Man in general, but I wanted to speak about, do we think a blockbuster, a Marvel blockbuster, after Age of Ultron, releasing in summer, is that just, I know it's a pun, but is it too big a kind of vehicle and expectations for this character who is constantly self-deprecating himself? Are the expectations too high for this character, or is that maybe not an adequate vehicle for him?
I don't know. I feel like it's something we talk about time and time again on the show. What we like about Marvel at the moment is the fact that they're trying all these different ways of bringing superheroes to the screen, almost placing them in different genres. Yeah. And so you're not going to get bigger than Age of Ultron, so you need to do something different, and something that I think it could be a really good alternative for when we've kind of had enough of sort of some of the more bombastic movies in the summer, to have this. And that's implying that maybe this won't be big and huge. This is a huge story. I've got no reason to believe it won't be. It's just a small character physically, but we're going to see the world in a completely epic way in this movie. It's just a slightly different way to how we're seeing it.
Did the trailer make you giggle at all? Did you like the gags in it?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, because I was speaking to some people and they were pretty down on the trailer, I have to say. I quite liked it. I liked the gag with the train set at the end. I thought it was really amusing, and I think for the first time you were conveying to a wider audience why this might be like an interesting film, why it will stand out. I feel the person I was speaking to, they were quite down on it. It's like, I don't know how much I can get behind this superhero who is kind of playing up the card of being a lame superhero. But I feel like because everything else in the Marvel Universe is so kind of slick and they're so good at being superheroes, that's why it stands out. And you made the comparison to Kick-Ass.
Yeah. I did. Kick-Ass, one of my favourite superhero films, as we've said on the show before, with me wearing my Kick-Ass hoodie.
Yeah.
But there's something about the way this scene's shot, the music. You're right, Dad. And there's certainly a place for that. And when Ant-Man takes his place among the Avengers, I think he'll be a great contrast to the other guys. They all have their sparring. There's no harm in having one that's maybe funnier than the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think maybe partly why Ant-Man currently feels kind of a little bit more, quarantined, or like an aside to what's going on elsewhere as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is possibly because of the Edgar Wright baggage and just the kind of all the stories and speculations surrounding its production, which hasn't really been the case with a lot of the movies. It has with a couple, but much more prominent with this movie, so we focused on that more than everything else. And then secondly, it's a lesser known character, and also the way that he factors into the bigger universe is less obvious. We've got Hank Pym, there's some talk of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter maybe being the ties for this character, so it feels initially maybe less embedded than some of the other spin-off movies.
Yeah, and I don't really see why Daredevil, say, more suits TV, and Iron Man more suits, a movie, and Ant-Man might more suit a sitcom. It just depends what story you decide to tell with the character. And I think, there's a few interesting stories being told in this one. It's a heist movie. It's a tale of industrial espionage.
It's going to be a redemption tale. It's going to be kind of a sciencey movie as well.
It's
like
father-daughter story at the core as well. It's an emotional story, really. Because the thing when we did the first Rewind Theatre, what I said, I wonder if this, because there's lots of scenes about fathers and daughters. The Hank Pym relationship with his daughter Janet, the relationship between Scott and his daughter as a counterpoint, and it's like this small-scale drama, but it will also take place on this weirdly distorted scale, which kind of summarises what they're doing with Ant-Man in general. But I just feel like in the comic, I'm reading a new comic, which is really, really funny, and I feel like comics can have their cake and eat it, because you can do kind of offbeat, silly comedy, because in the new comic, he lives in a diorama of basically Don Draper's apartment. And if he wants a big screen TV, he just props his iPhone against the diorama, which is really funny. And in comics, you can do this kind of small, offbeat comedy and still have amazing effects, because it's just a guy drawing it. And I say just a guy drawing it, a talented guy. Whereas in a movie, I feel like they still need the spectacle and the heroic.
Sure.
They couldn't just do the kind of the gag stuff. Like in the comics, he can be super lame dad.
Yeah, but Guardians had its fair share of offbeat humour
Yeah.
with just painted on this huge canvas.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those characters lost their kind of wackiness. So I want to go back to this Mad Men diorama. I want to live in Don Draper's apartment.
Who doesn't?
I was thinking about
Well,
that.
it's a bit like this isn't spoiler. It's very early on because he moves to Miami and he can't afford rent because he makes no money. So therefore, he goes into a toy shop and buys a diorama. It's really good.
That's really
it's a
funny.
really really funny comic. It's on the 4th issue, so you should jump on.
All right, that might be a bit too offbeat. But,
Yeah, I want to see that in the movie.
and it's a bunch of origin stories as well,
Yeah.
because we're going to learn all about Hank Pym. We're going to learn Scott's origin, Yellow Jacket, and then also, I think, potentially Wasp. So I think there's a lot going on to have this on a
Definitely,
grand
and
canvas.
I'm really excited about it because it is different. And I, go back to the person who's a bit of a naysayer. They also said as a counter argument that it just reminded him of like. He says he thought it was a massive backward step for Marvel because it looked like Iron Man, like that kind of like two men in suits battling it out. But it'd be interesting to see, knowing like everything Marvel has learned from doing all the other movies, how it tackles an origin story now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to do that again very soon with Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and a lot of these other characters. Did it recently very well with Guardians as an ensemble.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see how they like reincorporate what they've learned.
And we've talked about oversaturation of the market with these big movies, so maybe it is the time to gently satirise them, and I felt like that's what happened with the gag at the end of the trailer with the train, with Thomas the Tank Engine, where how many superhero movies have had a finale on a train?
Yeah.
And this is just a way of gently poking fun at that, while also presenting it in a quite a new and interesting way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people we never see anything quite like that before. I would infer from that maybe the entire last encounter takes place in his daughter's bedroom.
Yeah.
And she might be asleep throughout the duration of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
I'm jazzed as well.
Should we get on to feedback from last week? So last week we picked some of our favourite superhero costumes, and some we weren't too thrilled about.
Yeah.
Should I go first?
Me first. Okay, this is from Keaton Williams, who says, some of my favourite costumes in movies are two you guys mentioned. Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That was you.
Yep.
And Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, which was me. Two more I like are ones that most people wouldn't think of due to their less popular nature. V from V for Vendetta and Rorschach from Watchmen. Solely to do with how off the page they both look and how well that was done.
Yeah.
I think we can agree with that.
Which is a big talking point last week. We said, how close do you want it to the comic book? And it seems like a lot of people want that now from their superhero costumes, hence Deadpool.
Yeah.
Next up is Taylor. He says, my favourite costume has to be the original Iron Man suit, which I picked. And he also said Captain America's suit from the Avengers movie. They look perfect, and again, straight out of the comics. My least favourite is Venom from Spider-Man 3. I'm really glad he made it into the movie, but I wanted the big, bulky Venom from the comics.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
I agree, and that's going to look really dated, isn't it, really
I
soon?
think it already looks dated.
Yeah.
I've gone back not so long ago, I caught it on TV and it didn't look good. Too weedy.
Will Carlone says, I really like Sarah Lance's Black Canary outfit in Arrow. The costume has a much darker and slightly brooding differential from the comics.
Bet you do, mate. Bet you do. Next is RJ from the Dominican Republic. It's a very global episode, this.
I like this.
He says, hi guys, no love for Blade. It's on par with the comics and Wesley Snipes was great as him. We occasionally get emails about Blade. It's one of those...
Yeah, well, Blade 2, when Blade 2 came out, a lot of people were saying this is the best superhero movie in a long time.
Yeah, it's 18 as well.
It did help kickstart everything, and yeah, Blade did look good. I mean, we limited ourselves to only 2 choices.
Yeah,
but one I really like is Hellboy, but I just felt like it was more the makeup maybe than the outfit that I liked.
Same with Ape Sapien.
Yeah,
some great prosthetics.
But no, quite agree. Where is it? This is from Darren. Where are you from, Darren? Dublin.
Still international, isn't it?
Just a few shout outs for superhero movie costumes. The great ones include Darkman, Blade, and Raimi's Doc Ock. And as for the bad ones, there's too many, but I have to mention The Phantom.
Well,
even though the movie's a guilty pleasure of mine. Wish I hadn't said that.
Strangely enough, Frankie Rogers says, I think the outfit from The Phantom was one of the worst ever. It looks like he belonged in the kids' programme, The Aquabats. Favourite ones, however, he kind of agrees with us. And what you said about the Rocketeer reminded me of Star-Lord. He likes it for a similar reason, because it's not really an outfit, it's more practical and kind of cobbled together. However, one I'd like to mention is Kick-Ass. It's so simple and looks homemade, which I think complements the story brilliantly. Which is kind of the suspension of disbelief with a lot of these things is, yeah, I can understand how he gets the pyjama outfit, like in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But where the hell does he get the other outfit? Same with the new Daredevil.
Yeah, I'm waiting to find that out.
Yeah, because I've not got that yet.
When it comes to Kick-Ass, I think I like Hit Girl's outfit better than Kick-Ass's. I think her, but they've both become quite iconic. When I first saw the Kick-Ass one in the comic and then in the film, I wasn't a great fan of it, but it's just kind of
so lovable, I think.
It works. The Phantom, though, man, it's like.
Should we go back and rewatch The Phantom for an episode?
He's like a purple-headed warrior. It's this purple like cat suit with a purple dome on top, and let's be honest, he looks a bit like a big. This is from Gervaisi BA. Will the superhero show ever cover superhero animation? Marvel and DC are both receiving interesting responses to their content or lack thereof, and animation almost always nails the superhero costume.
It's true. I suppose it can be a more faithful adaptation. Well, there's a new Guardians cartoon coming from Marvel, and also like DC have always done like really supported their animation division. Like going back to Mask of Phantasm, obviously animated series, but there's been loads of great Justice League stuff over the years. So yeah, if you've got any suggestions, like send them in, and we can like follow up. Maybe do a whole show about.
Yeah, because I've been trying to dig into some of the animated movies on Netflix and Amazon Prime. Yeah. And because there's a lot, I'm not being very patient. If you don't get me in the first 20 minutes, I'm moving on to the next one. But yeah, tell us your favourites, and maybe we'll do a show on our favourites as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. My last email for this week is from Darren from Bradford. So, someone from everywhere.
Up north.
I too watched the first couple of episodes of Daredevil. For Marvel, it's realistic, it's grounded, and it's gritty. Following on from the email I sent a few weeks back discussing how Arrow sways more towards courting fantasy these days, do you think this new Vigilante series by Marvel would give DC a kick up the backside to return Arrow back to its darker tones for Season 4? Now, over the weekend, obviously, everyone was talking about Daredevil, and inevitably Arrow was invoked quite frequently. And a lot of people kind of getting involved, maybe they were like baiting people going, oh, it kicks Arrow's ass and stuff. You know, Arrow's a very different thing, aimed at a different demographic, on a different network. It's on CW in America, which, you know, is pitched at a certain kind of crowd. Netflix allows you a bit more time and it allows you to tackle stuff. So it's really hard to like compare them. But you know the people who do Arrow are going to be looking at the reception.
Sure.
But I still don't think that's going to change what they've got planned or how they go about it.
No, because that when you just start directly copying someone else, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think, when you're always looking at like feedback or comments, then you lose sight of what you're trying to achieve.
We'll see. Well, they can't make it as violent as Daredevil is. That's just a fact.
But it's true, like the first series Arrow, much more like he used to kill quite a lot of people, which is something, you know, Daredevil doesn't really do, you know, despite all the blood and all the violence.
Oh, there's some coming. This is from Trey Noel. This is our final email of the week. It says, hey guys, quick opinion question that I would love to hear your feedback on. Both Marvel and DC have released their slate of movies spanning over 10 plus years. Do you think that releasing a long-term plan such as they did is good or bad for superhero movies? What do you reckon, Daniel?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons.
Like for us, and obviously the job we're in, if you're watching the show, it's massively exciting. When, you know, the Phase 3 thing happened following a disappointed Comic-Con, it was disappointing because that's kind of what you wanted to happen, and they really delivered by announcing all these movies. Obviously, we talked about it many times, Warner did it in a different way, more downbeat way. But then the flip side is, I think it gets a lot of negative press from some sectors where people, like when we discussed the other week about superhero movies ruining Hollywood. I think it garners a lot of negative attention. Like people think like somehow they have to watch every single movie. Like some people like go, oh, that's all it's going to be, and they feel kind of overwhelmed by it. And also because some of it might not happen.
Yeah,
I think it puts a lot of pressure because Wonder Woman's just lost its director. All these things happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would question why they've done it. Why release this slate of 10 years worth of films? Is it just for the shareholders and the companies to show, look, what the money we're gonna be making in the future? Like, do we really need to know all this stuff that far in advance?
I don't think we. Yeah, I think internally, I think Marvel, the way that they've created this entire industry, and it's just huge what they're doing right now. It's like. It's without precedent now what they're doing. For a while you could have compared it to Star Wars or something else. Now it's its own thing. I think internally they would have done, because they would have been planning this stuff, plotting that stuff. I've no doubt in my mind. But making it public, I think that's something else. That's almost you making a contract with your fans.
Yeah, and it's taking it for granted that each of these films are going to be a success.
Yeah,
which I don't really like that. I mean, shouldn't you just see which way the wind is blowing and what audiences are responding to and what they aren't? If Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't working, do something new with Spider-Man, change Spider-Man. Kind of locking yourself in for these 10 years, it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, because what if Devil's Advocate, so Black Panther movie comes out, everyone hates Black Panther.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. They don't like the character. Chadwick Boseman's a great actor, but somehow he doesn't nail it, and people, does that scupper their plans? Do they persevere? Do they recast like they have done in the past?
Or there's a breakout character from a movie, a different breakout character to the one they're expecting.
I suppose the only kind of antecedent we have for that is Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton, where this quite early on they rolled the dice. Audiences, for whatever reason, just didn't get behind Norton, that incarnation, the direction, the story.
Yeah.
And then, had it been a success, I'm sure we would have got Hulk 2, but instead they re-rolled it, reformatted it, and reconfigured what Hulk was going to be within that universe. So I think that's interesting. I think they're nimble to an extent, but I still imagine some of those will shift. Same with the DC slate, more so than any of them as well.
Yeah. So it's not all set in stone.
No.
Is that a positive or negative note to end on?
I'm going to say it's a positive one, because we had lots of nice emails from all around the world. And you can email us anytime at superheroshowign.com about anything at all, whether it's DC, Marvel, comic book, animation, or just to say hello.
Yeah, so thanks for watching this week, and stay tuned to IGN for all your superhero needs.